What's up everybody, it's Hammer. Today I wanted to do a video going over all of the gear that I carried on my 2021 thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. I wanted to go over some of the things that I started with versus what I finished with, and maybe some changes that I would make in the future, and some things that I did change while I was on the trail. First, I want to talk about the clothing that I wore while hiking. So this is stuff that was pretty much always on my body. So this is stuff that I don't usually include in my base weight because I'm always wearing it. My shoes of choice were the Ultra Olympus. These are the 4s. This is the shoe that I wore all throughout the AT. I went through 4 different pairs of these. And actually this is the pair that I summited Katahdin with. They're definitely ready for replacement. I'm looking at getting a pair of the 5s pretty soon here, but I love these things. I have no intention of switching to any other brand or any other model, if you will. The Olympuses have the most cushion out of any of the Ultras, and I definitely need that. I have super sensitive feet, so the extra cushion is great. Inside the Ultras, I do use a special insole. These are the Superfeet Trailblazers. What's special about these is they have the carbon bottoms that protect the arch of your foot as well as the heel. I think these are great for a more rocky terrain. As far as socks go, I always went with the standard Darn Tough sock, full cushion. These are great. They have a lifetime warranty, so whenever you get a hole in them or anything like that, you can take them to a gear shop that has the Darn Tough exchange program, and they'll give you a brand new pair for no cost. So that's great. I always wore Darn Toughs, and underneath the Darn Toughs I actually wore Injinji sock liners. These are the toe sock liners, so they keep your toes separated, and the reason for these is to just have an extra thin layer to help with keeping blisters away. They're so thin that they do wear out pretty quickly, so I was replacing them often. I did struggle with blisters pretty bad at the beginning of trail. Toward the end of the trail, I didn't really feel like I needed them as much. My feet kind of hardened up from all the miles, so some days I just decided not to wear them. It does get kind of old, putting these on, especially when they're wet. They're a little difficult to put on, but they do great for blister protection, so if you struggle with blisters, give the Injinjis a try. These are my Gaiters that I wore over my shoes. They're Dirty Girl. I forget what this pattern's called, but there's 1,000 different patterns you can get. They were great. They did their job. If you don't know what these are, they pretty much hook on to the top of your shoe, kind of like that, and then this part wraps around your ankle, so they keep any pebbles and dirt or whatever from getting inside your shoe, because it's super annoying when you get a little rock or something in your shoe and you gotta stop, take your shoe off and all that, so this kind of prevents that. As far as my bottoms, underwear, this is a pair of Exofficio boxer briefs. I'll be honest with you, I wore these at the beginning of the hike, and after a week or two I decided I didn't really need underwear, so I sent them home. They're nice underwear, they're comfortable, and I wear them all the time now, but on trail I really don't need them. I don't think it's worth the wait, so I just sent them home. These are cheap running shorts off Amazon. They are Sophie brand, I think is how you say it. They do have a liner inside. I think they're a 7-inch running short. These are what I hiked in most of the trail. I actually started with an expensive pair of Under Armour running shorts, and they were ripping holes in the crotch all the time. I kept having to re-sew them, a couple times a week or whatever. These were the shorts that I was sleeping in at the beginning of the hike, so I actually switched and started sleeping in the Under Armour and hiking in these, and these never got any tears. Even the liner inside is fully intact. So for 15-20 bucks, whatever these were, super worth it. I'm gonna keep hiking in them. As far as a shirt, I pretty much hiked in this Columbia Silver Ridge Ultralight shirt every day. It's lightweight. It didn't wick moisture away quite as much as I thought it would. A lot of times I would even hang it up to dry, you know, overnight, and I'd wake up and still be wet most days. But I mean, you're putting on a wet shirt almost every day on the AT anyway. Sometimes I swap this out for my sleep shirt. You'll see later I just kind of slept in a standard t-shirt. And sometimes I would opt to hike in the t-shirt and sleep in this, or just sleep in no shirt and hike in the t-shirt. But this is what I hiked in most of the time. This is my tried and true buff. I love this thing. I was always wearing it, whether it was on my head or around my neck. It's great for sun protection or for keeping the sweat out of your eyes, whatever. You can use it for anything. Wiping sweat, blowing your nose, washing your feet. You know, this is meant to be a multi-purpose item. I pretty much just wore it for sun protection, but I would always hike with it. I love having the buff on me. On my head, I was pretty much always wearing this Appalachian Trail trucker hat. This is just from Etsy or something like that. Super nice hat, but it's seen better days, that's for sure. So I'm gonna need a replacement pretty soon. This is the Hyperlite Mountain Gear Southwest 2400. It is a 40-liter pack, Dyneema fabric, so it is pretty much waterproof. The difference between the Southwest and some of the other models that Hyperlite makes is the pocket. This is actually an enclosed pocket rather than a mesh pocket. I mean, I wouldn't see much of a difference. I guess in the mesh pocket things may dry quicker than in here, but I didn't really have any problem. This is not a framed pack. It actually has stays on the inside of the pack to help kind of give it its shape. I like this. I think it helps a little bit with comfort. It kind of keeps it, you know, contorted to your back in a better way than a fully frameless pack. Inside the pack, I have a Nylafume pack liner. It's pretty much a trash compactor bag, just not quite as thick. This pretty much just adds an extra layer of water protection. The AT is a super wet trail, so I thought this would be good to have. This pack has the roll top enclosure, which I really love. It just makes for a nice water resistant seal. I actually did not start my through hike with this pack. I started with the LiteAF Curve 35. It was a custom pack that I had made, fully frameless. I wanted to love the pack. They seem to be pretty unanimously liked in the backpacking community. However, it just did not work for me. It was super comfortable. It was everything that I really wanted in a pack, but it just kept ripping. By the time I got to Damascus, you know, give or take 300 miles in on the AT, I started to get some tears on the bottom of the pack, and I had Chris from LiteAF repair it at Trail Days. His repairs held up fine, but the pack just kept ripping, and then seals started to split, and you know, over the next few hundred miles, it seemed like I was hand sewing the pack almost every night, and definitely every town stop. It just took a lot of time, so I had to give in and get something different. The Hyperlite mountain gear packs are a little more readily available than a lot of the cottage company packs, so I think I just had this shipped out from REI, and I loved it. I picked this up in Pennsylvania right around the halfway point, and I carried this the rest of the way to Katahdin. I had no issues. There are no tears. I plan on using this for many more miles in the future, and I don't see myself switching to any other brand. I like the Hyperlite. It's super comfortable, and it's really all that I want in a pack. This is my LiteAF Ultralight Fanny Pack. This thing is definitely due for replacement. There's a bunch of holes in the bottom. I can actually see right through it looking at it. It seems like the Dyneema kind of wore out. Like I wasn't super rough with this thing. Like I was creating holes in the bottom of it, but if you look inside, like you can just see the Dyneema is just kind of pulling apart. It was comfortable to carry. I'd probably get another one of these. It's super lightweight, but definitely time for replacement. It's just really nice to have easy access to certain things. I always kept my cell phone in this front pocket here. Inside the fanny pack, I would carry, this is my pocket knife. Again, definitely overkill. It's a Kershaw. This is the one I carry in everyday life. I pretty much feel naked without this thing, so I always carried it in my fanny pack. You could get away with a little tiny, you know, Swiss Army knife. You don't really need a blade this big. This is just my knife that I always carry. Pair of headphones. I started the trail with a pair of wireless Skull Candies, I think, but it got annoying trying to keep them charged all the time, and they would die throughout the day, and you know, they would die in the middle of a podcast or something. So I ended up just getting a cheap pair of corded headphones, and I prefer these while hiking. My hiker wallet, this thing's made by LiteAF, so I would just keep, you know, some cash in here. I had my credit card, ID, and I think my insurance card. That's pretty much all I ever kept in here. Next up are my trekking poles. These are the, please forgive me, I'm not sure how to say this word, but they're the Lecky Kumbu Light Anti-Shock. They are aluminum trekking poles. I prefer these over the carbon fiber poles because it seems that the carbon fiber snap a lot easier than the aluminum. Therefore, these are a little bit heavier. I'm okay with that. I don't really need the lightest trekking pole in the world. But these were great. I had no issues. I recall a time when I fell on trail, and I swear to God, one of these pretty much bent into a full 90 degree and springed back into place. So didn't break any tips. I didn't have to replace the tips at all. Toward the end of my hike, I found myself not really using these all that much, to be honest. I did need them to set up my tent that I was using. I use a trekking pole tent, and we'll get to that in a minute. But otherwise, I may have thought about sending these home because, yeah, once I was in a little more hiking shape, I really didn't use them all that much. I've got some Luco tape on each of them. I also usually kept a little roll of duct tape on each side, good for, you know, repairs and covering up blisters and things like that. This is the ZPacks. Next up is my shelter. This is the ZPacks Altiplex tent. It's a single person tent, pretty much built for the taller person. I'm about 6'2", so a normal length tent is usually a little bit short for me. And this actually fit me pretty well. Again, this is a single person tent, so I didn't really have room for any gear at all in the tent with me. I would usually put all my gear out in the vestibule while I slept at night. But as far as fitting myself and my sleeping pad and quilt and all that, I fit very well. This tent probably got about a month's worth This tent probably got about a month's worth of work. I probably used this tent for the first month of my AT through hike. For those of you who don't know, I did meet my girlfriend while hiking the AT, and she was carrying this ZPacks duplex. The duplex is a two-person tent, although I would say it would work better as probably a one-person tent. Her and I did share this for 5 months on trail. We did fine. We were very close, and again, we couldn't fit any of our gear in the tent with us. If her and I were to do another long distance trail together, we would certainly look at probably a 3-person tent for the two of us, just for a little extra room. The duplex was one of the most popular tents that we saw on trail. Everyone knows what these are, and it's a great tent. Held up well. It does have a few tears in it now, but I think these are really only recommended for one through hike, so it did its job. On the next through hike, we'll probably be looking at getting something different, something a little bigger. As far as tent stakes go, I have my MSR Groundhog Minis. I carried 10 of them. To fully stake out my Ultraplex, it does take 10 stakes, but I think you can get away with as little as 6. So depending on, you know, how heavy the wind was and things like that, I usually staked it out completely with the 10 stakes. But these are great tent stakes. Had no issues with them pulling out, really. No complaints with them. None of them broke. I didn't lose any of them, surprisingly. So I'm going to continue to use them. And then I keep them in this ZPacks Dyneema 10 stake bag. Moving on to my sleep system. This is my quilt that I slept in every night. It is the Enlightened Equipment Enigma 20 degree. I did go with the down versus the synthetic option just to save a little bit of weight. I don't have too many complaints about this thing. I have never washed it, so it smells pretty bad, and also the down has started to compact a little bit. It should definitely loft up a little more after I wash it. I stayed pretty warm in this thing. There were a few nights toward the beginning and I think even toward the end of the hike where temps got down in the 20s, and I mean it was pretty cold, I'm not gonna lie, but it did its job. I mean, if I bundled up and, you know, pretty much wore every piece of clothing that I had, I was fine with it. The Enigma does have the closed foot box, which I liked. A lot of the foot boxes that open up, you know, people say that they get, you know, drafts coming through in the middle of the night and things like that, so I didn't really have to worry about that. Along with the quilt, I did carry the quilt strap. So because quilts aren't like sleeping bags and they don't cover your full body, it's pretty much like a blanket laying over top of you. So you use this quilt strap to pretty much connect your quilt to your sleeping pad, and so that way when you roll around throughout the night, the quilt doesn't come off of you, and you can stay warm throughout the night. I probably used this 3 times while on trail. I didn't really get cold enough to need it that often, but on those nights in the 20s, I did use it. It worked fine, quilt didn't move, and I stayed warm. This is the pillow that I used each night. It's the Nemo Philo Elite pillow. I really like this thing. It's a lot better than a lot of the other pillows out there. I feel like a lot of the other pillows are more, I guess, balloon-like. And it just, yeah, it kind of feels like you're sleeping on a balloon. But this one was actually pretty comfortable. The fabric's super soft, and it was easy to wash too. Honestly, I probably only washed it once in the 6 months I was on trail. But you can take the, you know, the inner bladder outside of this and just wash the outside in the washing machine. So that was super easy. Didn't have any issues with this. It takes maybe 2 breaths to fill it up, and yeah, I slept great with it. Both the quilt and my pillow went in this ZPacks dry bag. I think this is the medium plus size. I'm definitely a stuff sack person. A lot of people just kind of like to shove everything into their pack and fill in all the empty spaces of the pack, you know, to make it a little more comfortable. I don't really care as much about that. I like, you know, being a little more organized and having certain things separated so I can quick grab them out when I need them. So all of my stuff is in dry bags. And, you know, with the dry bags you get the extra water protection, so it gives you a little more peace of mind that your down quilt isn't going to get wet throughout the day. Next up is my sleeping pad. This is the Thermarest NeoAir X Lite. I am a little bit of a taller guy, so I do get the large and wide size. This thing, as you can see, is pretty beat up and has seen better days. It's kind of held together with some duct tape and super glue up here near the valve, and I know there's a couple other patches on it. This is a good sleeping pad. It's comfortable. I slept great on it every night, but I did have to patch it multiple times on my through hike. I'm pretty careful with my gear. You know, I'm not throwing it around and being super rough with it. So the fact that it got so many holes in it, I think I may try a different sleeping pad in the future. But it's definitely comfortable. A lot of hikers out there are using these, and many have better luck than I did with them. Along with the sleeping pad, I did carry the pump sack. So pretty much this attaches to the valve, and you can kind of just, you know, blow into it, fill it with air, and you use that to fill up your sleeping pad rather than blowing up the whole thing by mouth. One of the worst things, in my opinion, is getting to camp at the end of a long day of hiking and having to sit and blow up a sleeping pad by mouth. So I am not going to hike without the pump sack. I mean, it's a couple ounces. So for me, it's worth it. Some people opt not to bring these, but that's your choice. We talked about the clothing that I wore every day while hiking. So let's talk about the clothing that I actually carried in my pack most of the time. As far as sleep clothing goes, most of the time I just slept in a pair of shorts. These are actually the Under Armour shorts that I said ripped early on in my hike. So I ended up switching these for the cheap Sophie shorts that I ended up hiking in. So I slept in these Under Armour shorts. They have a big hole in the crotch that I've sewed probably 50 times now, but that doesn't really matter when you're sleeping. So I cut the liner out to make it a little more comfortable, but I slept in these most nights. On the nights that were a little more chilly, I slept in these Smartwool 250 leggings. These things were great. Comfortable, warm. They're not the lightest leggings on the market, but I like them and I'm going to keep using them. On my upper body, I pretty much just slept in a cheap t-shirt. Again, like $10–15 on Amazon. Nothing too crazy here. On the super hot, 95-degree days in the summer, I would swap this out for the long sleeve, Columbia Silver Ridge, and I would just hike in this and then sleep with no shirt on. So I like just having a cheap t-shirt. I always carried a second pair of Darn Tough socks. Like I said, I carried one pair to hike in and one pair to sleep in, and I would rotate as needed. Your feet are pretty much always wet while you're hiking, whether it's from sweat or rain or whatever, but you don't want to sleep in wet socks. So I always kept a pair dry, so that I would have a nice dry warm pair to sleep in each night. I did usually carry an extra set of Injinji sock liners as well. Like I said, I went through these things like crazy and they don't really weigh much, so it was always nice to just have a second pair for whenever I needed them. Next up are my sealskin waterproof socks. These I kind of used in a different way than most people use them, I think. I didn't want to carry camp shoes. A lot of people carry Crocs or flip-flops or something like that that they can change into when they get to camp at night. But I didn't really want to do that. So what I ended up doing was, when my trail runners would get wet throughout the day, and say I was sleeping at night and I had to get up and out of my tent to use the bathroom, instead of putting on cold wet shoes and getting my feet wet again after they already dried out, I would put these waterproof socks on and then put my wet trail runners on, so it would keep my feet dry. And it worked pretty well for me. I definitely like this idea better than having a pair of Crocs dangling off the back of my pack all the time. I had a pair of Smartwool liner gloves. These are just a super thin wool glove. Nothing too special here. And along with that, I have a Smartwool beanie. It's just like a skull beanie. It's reversible, super lightweight. It's not going to keep you crazy warm, but it was enough to do the job. This kind of thing I obviously sent home during the summer months. These were more used at the beginning of my hike. Next up is my pair of Enlightened Equipment Copperfield wind pants. To my surprise, these were actually another favorite piece of gear of mine on my thru hike. A friend of mine actually bought these for me as a gift before I left. He had been using them for a period of time beforehand, and I always kind of made fun of him for wearing them because it looks like you're wearing trash bags around your legs. It's just a little piece of thin material. It doesn't really seem like it's going to do anything for you, but these things are actually really awesome. They cut through wind like you wouldn't believe, so on the super windy days, these were a lifesaver. I also wore these on rainy days if I, didn't want to have super wet legs, and I wore them on, the colder days. Yeah, I just really love these things. Super versatile and weigh almost nothing, so why not carry them with you? My bug net. This is just a cheap bug net off of Amazon. It's the Even Naturals mosquito net. Just kind of, drapes over your face and your hat and whatever you have on your head. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not wear this a single time. I carried it from start to finish. The bugs were super terrible at parts of the northern states, but I could not stand having this thing in front of my face, so I just never used it. The bugs seemed to bite my legs and my arms and things like that, but they didn't really bother my face all that much that I remember, so didn't get much use out of this thing. I'm sure it works great. Super cheap and super light. So most people did use them. I just didn't really feel the need to myself. And then again, all of my clothing I stuffed in a ZPacks dry bag. I think this is the medium size bag. Okay, next up is probably my favorite piece of gear that I had on the trail. This is the Melanzana MicroGrid hoodie. This thing is awesome. I hiked in it, I slept in it, I wore it in towns. It's just super comfortable. It's lightweight. It breathes well. I really don't have anything bad to say about this. It fits great. I love the way the hood is shaped, and you can kind of cinch it, underneath your chin. It's got a super big pocket in the front. I just love this thing so much. The problem is they're so difficult to get now. Melanzana is a very small company in Leadville, Colorado, and pretty much the only way to get one of these is to go to Leadville to their shop and get one there. They used to do an online lottery where they would pick randomly a certain number of people to shop online throughout the winter, and that's how I got this. I was lucky enough to win the lottery and be able to order this online. But I think since then they've stopped doing those lotteries. So now I believe the only way to get one of these is to make an appointment at the Leadville, Colorado shop to go and shop in the store and get one of these. So is it worth all that? Probably not, but I love this thing. I wish I would have bought 10 of them. I wear it all the time now off the trail, so hopefully sometime I can get out to Colorado and get another one of these. This is my puffy jacket of choice. This is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex jacket. The Apexes are actually a synthetic jacket rather than down. If you're at camp and it's a cold night and maybe it's drizzling rain or something, you can't wear down and get it wet, because then it won't keep you warm at all. So that's why I opted for the synthetic over the down, because this can get wet and it will still keep you warm. It's super light. It is very warm. It held up well. I have no tears or anything like that. Yeah, it's a great jacket. No complaints on it. Let's talk about my rain gear. First up is my rain jacket. This is the Outdoor Research Helium 2 rain jacket. I did not like this thing. I had seen a lot of different gear reviews, different guys using these, and they all had pretty good reviews of it, so I thought I'd give it a try. This thing just did not keep me dry. I remember the first decent rain that we had, I was just completely soaked through and I was super disappointed. This thing pretty much just helped me keep warm when it was raining. It did not keep me dry at all. So definitely going to look at other options for rain gear. Again, maybe I just got unlucky. A lot of people seem to like this thing, but it just didn't work for me, and that's all right. But I did carry it for the entire trail, and I made it alive. So for my lower half, I wore a rain skirt. Rain pants can be a pain getting them on and off. They also don't breathe very well, so you start to sweat underneath, and it's just kind of gross. Pretty much, you would just wrap this thing, you know, around your shorts and wear it as a skirt, and it comes down below your knees and keeps pretty much your shorts dry. Your feet are going to get wet anyway. Your ankles are going to get wet. Who cares? This is a ZPacks Dyneema rain skirt. As you can see, the zipper is pretty much ripped off at this point, and that's from me not using it properly. Pretty much, I would wrap it around my body, and I would pull the zipper in the back down a little too far, so when I would hike, you know, it would just pull on this zipper and ended up making a tear. So it kept me dry, it did its job, and I think I'm going to get the same one in the future. Another good use for these rain skirts is in the vestibule of your tent, where you have your pack and all your gear set up, you know, outside on the ground. I would just lay this out in the vestibule and lay all my gear so to keep it off the ground and keep it a little more dry. And the last of the rain gear are these ZPacks Virtus rain mitts. I think I used these one time and then ended up sending them home. They're a good piece of gear. They do what they're supposed to do. They keep your hands dry when it's raining, but I just didn't really feel the need to carry them. I guess getting my hands wet throughout the day didn't bother me as much as I thought it would, so I ended up sending these home. Okay, next up we will talk about my food setup. So this is the LiteAF Bear Bag. It's Dyneema, and along with the bear bag I also got the bear hang kit. So this is the rock bag that it comes with, along with the line, and this is a carabiner that I just got at a gas station. The LiteAF one that comes in the kit actually broke on me, so I just picked this up, and it worked out fine. I can't say that I hung my food every night while on trail, but I did the majority of the nights, especially in the southern states when black bears are more of an issue. I didn't really sleep at shelters unless I absolutely had to. I kind of stuck with the stealth camping, so critters aren't really as much of a problem if you're stealth camping, but I did hang my food most of the time, so I just would leave that kit in the bag with my food. As far as my cook system, this is a Tokes 750 ml pot. Nothing too fancy here. Inside the pot I would carry a regular sized lighter. My stove, this is a BRS Amazon stove. This thing is, I think, $15. It weighs next to nothing. I'll unfold it here. That's all it is. It just screws onto the top of your gas canister like that. This thing was awesome. For $15, it lasted the whole through hike. I'm still going to be using it. I had no issues with it. I'm sure it takes a little longer to boil water than probably a jet boil, but for 15 bucks and for how light it is, definitely worth it. I would always keep a gas canister in my pot just like that. I would always put it upside down rather than right side up, because this ring, if you have any moisture in your pot, this ring can cause a little bit of rust in your pot, so putting it upside down kind of prevents that. And then I also would keep a bandana or something just to help wash my pot out, or whatever I needed it for. My spoon was just a Sea to Summit, long handled spoon, nothing fancy. I like the long handled spoons better because whenever you decide to treat yourself with a Mountain House meal or something like that, you don't want to get food all over your hands. It's nice to have that long handle. As far as storing food, I just carried a bunch of Ziplocs. I think I carried 5 at a time. I would sort of organize my food for the day. I put all my breakfasts in one bag, all my lunches in one, dinners, snacks, and then I carried one for trash as well. So usually 5 Ziploc bags. And that's really all I needed in my food kit. Water system, I just carried regular old Smart water bottles with a Sawyer squeeze, of course. I love the Sawyer squeeze. I've tried the Katadyn Be Free and some of the other Sawyers, the mini and things like that, and in my opinion the Sawyer squeeze is just the best. So I would just leave the Sawyer squeeze on top of one bottle that I would keep dirty water in, and then I would filter into a second bottle, which would be clean water. So usually I was carrying 2 liters of water at a time, 1 dirty bottle, and then 1 bottle of clean. On top of that, I did carry a 3-liter Platypus bladder. I never really carried water in my pack with this. I didn't really need to on the AT. I pretty much carried this for when we got to camp at night. Sometimes the water sources are, a little bit of a walk away from where you're actually setting up the tents and everything. So it was nice to just fill this up and have 3 liters of water that you could carry back to your tent and have through the night and for the next morning. So that's why I kept this on me. A very important piece of a gear setup. This is what I call my my shit bag. So pretty much this is everything that I would take when I would go to the bathroom. Of course I have my Ultralight trowel that I would use to bury my shit. I would keep that in a separate baggie. That way any dirt and mud and things wouldn't get onto my toilet paper. Always carried a roll, pretty much a full roll of toilet paper. Take the toilet paper roll outside, so you can kind of smush it down as small as you can. Just a wad of toilet paper, and then a bottle of hand sanitizer. And this would just go in the front pouch of my pack for easy access. Next up would be my, I guess, Ditty / electronics bag. Inside the Ditty bag is my headlamp. This is the Nightcore NU32. It's got 3 different brightness settings. It's super bright. It also has the red light setting, of course, for when you're at campsites and whatnot. Really no complaints about this thing. It's not the lightest headlamp in the world, but it was great. This is the battery pack that I carried. I don't even think that they make these anymore. This was a cheap Amazon brand. I think it's a TQKA 10,000 or something like that. I didn't get a whole lot of charges out of this. Maybe 3 or 4 full phone charges out of it, which was fine for how often I was going into town and whatnot. The best thing about this battery pack was the weight of it. I think this is less than half a pound, which is very light for a battery pack. It has 2 different charging ports on it, so I could charge 2 things at once. I was happy with it, but I think on the next longer hike I would probably get a bigger pack that I can get a few more charges out of. In addition to the other electronics, I also carried a GoPro Hero 9. The reason I can't show it to you is because I am recording on it right now. I carried the GoPro as my primary camera for taking vlog footage and photographs. I also had a little handle / tripod on the bottom of it, and I kind of kept that in the one of those front pockets on my hip belt of my pack. and that worked really well. A lot of people complain about the battery life of the GoPros. I didn't really have an issue. I like the Hero 9. I'm going to keep using it. Okay, also in the Ditty Bag / electronics bag, I have various little repair kits, just little baggies that I've gotten little pieces of gear in over time. So this one I have a couple of Band-Aids just for any cuts. I don't think I ever used a Band-Aid on trail, but it's good to have a couple. There's a safety pin in here that I use to pop blisters. I did use that quite a few times. And then I have a little travel-sized makeup mirror, and pretty much what I carried this for was if I, thought I had a tick or something in a place where I couldn't really see, I could use this mirror. And on the back you can see this piece of duct tape on the mirror. Underneath the duct tape is a sewing needle that I carried in case I had to repair any gear, and thankfully I did, because I did have to repair my pack many times when I was carrying the LiteAF pack. So that's that little baggie. I have another little baggie here. It's the same kind of things, little repair things. There's a little spool of thread. There's a roll of Cuban fiber tape that can be used to repair any sort of Cuban fiber material, so packs, tents, the rain kilt, anything like that. I did use it multiple times on the duplex, and it worked fine, just as it should. Stopped the leaks and good to go. There's a spare O-ring in here for the Sawyer squeezes. This is known as one of the most lost items to backpackers. Thankfully I never lost one, but I did always have a spare on me. There's a Thermarest patch kit in here. Again, had to use that many times on trail. So that comes with, the patches and then the glue dots that you can use to patch any holes in your sleeping pad. You probably can't see it, but tucked in the patch kit here is a pair of tweezers, which I kept on me just in case I did get any ticks. I didn't really have much trouble with ticks on trail. I found a few crawling on me, in Pennsylvania and Jersey and some of the places where we were going through more fields. But as far as I know, I never got bit by a tick. I didn't really have any issues myself, though other people did. Some people got off trail for Lyme disease and things like that. But, so that's that little baggie. Here I have another little baggie, and this is pretty much just pills. Definitely overkill. I would not carry this much on my next longer hike. I have a bunch of Advil in here. I have some shit pills, and honestly, antihistamine for, if I got a bee sting or allergic reaction or something like that. I didn't need any of this. I realize it's good to have a few things, but this is just too much. I could have just taken a few pills of each. I took Advil one time on the entire through hike, and I think that might have been for a headache or something stupid like that. I didn't use any of this. It was kind of pointless, but good to have in case of emergencies, I guess. I have a cork ball made by Rawology, I think is how you say it. This is used for rolling out your feet and really any muscle issues that you have. So I use this a lot for rolling out my back, any sort of tightness I had in my back. And yeah, I used it on my feet often, sometimes calves and things like that. So it's super light, and I'll probably always carry it with me. I have a tube of chapstick here, and I also have some more Luco tape wrapped around that. It's just various charging cords, one for my GoPro, one for the power bank, and one for my headlamp, of course. And all that stuff went in this. This is a LiteAF dry bag, actually. It's a little ditty bag. I actually have a second little ditty bag. This is a LiteAF Ditty Bag. It has a flat bottom. I just wanted to try the flat bottom. I didn't really care for it any better or worse than any other stuff sack. But I kept this in the front pouch of my pack. It's sort of things that I didn't mind if they got wet. So in here I kept, I always had a bottle of sunscreen. I'm a ginger, so I burn like crazy. I always had to keep sunscreen on me. Toothbrush. This is not the toothbrush that I carried on the AT. This is a bamboo toothbrush that my girlfriend gave me after the trail. While on trail, I carried one of the ZPacks Ultralight toothbrushes, and it worked fine. It was just super grody after trail, so I just ended up throwing it out. But I guess this is what I'm using next. Little tube of travel size toothpaste. This is just an old hand sanitizer bottle that I filled with just hand soap that I used. This is a little thing of Gold Bond that I picked up. I actually got this out of a hiker box. I didn't use it too much, but there were a couple days in the summer where I felt like I needed it on my back and certain areas where my pack was kind of rubbing. So I used this a little bit, but not too much. I don't have a stick of Body Glide in here, but I did use a lot of Body Glide on trail. I do chafe pretty bad, and the Body Glide is just a lifesaver. I don't think I'll ever hike without it. Some other miscellaneous items, just a cheap pair of sunglasses. I didn't carry these ones in particular, but I pretty much just stuck these in one of the side pouches of my hip belt on my pack. And yeah, I just like to have sunglasses at all times. And along with the sunglasses, I always kept a handkerchief in the side pocket as well, just for easy access for wiping sweat or, you know, blowing your nose or something like that. During the through hike, of course, I carried AWOL's AT guide. A lot of people didn't carry this. Gut Hook, which is now known as Far Out Guide, is what people mostly used. It's an app on your phone. You don't have to carry an extra book. I liked having the book for a couple reasons. This book was great for town information. There was a lot of shuttle drivers and businesses listed in here that could help you out along your hike. So it was good to have those phone numbers handy. But I also used it sort of as a journal. So every night I would mark where we stayed, you know, with the date, and then I would just write a little blurb about each day. And actually, since I've been back from trail, I kind of rewrote everything out into a little journal. So now I sort of have a little story written in my own words, you know, about each day on the AT. And, you know, carried a pen with it too, obviously. But sit pad, I wasn't much of a believer in the sit pad, but I definitely am now. This thing just comes in handy a lot of times. It's just nice for, you know, sitting on a wet log or something, or a wet ground on a rainy day. I used it for, you know, shielding my stove, you know, when I'm trying to cook and the wind's blowing and your stove keeps blowing out, you know, I kind of used it as a windshield to protect my stove, and that worked pretty well. A lot of different uses for this thing. It weighs next to nothing, and I kind of just strapped this on top of the pack so that I could just grab it really quick anytime I wanted to sit for a break or whatever. So there you have it. That is my entire gear setup from my 2021 through hike of the Appalachian Trail. If you have any questions on any of this gear, anything I can help you with, please feel free to reach out. I love talking about this stuff. I'm definitely a gear nerd, as I'm sure the majority of you are. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.